Hey friends, it's Melvin. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Here's just a few quick things I wanted to notify you guys about before we get started. First up, very soon, new episodes will be releasing Wednesday mornings rather than Tuesday. So don't panic if you don't see a new episode on Tuesday. Just wait a little longer and you'll see it in your feed. Second, we've introduced a mailbag. Check those show notes and toward the bottom you'll see a mailbag link. You'll then be able to text us any questions you might have about movies, the movie industry, or any movie/Christian related questions you might have. Then we'll respond in a future episode, so send us your questions now. Up next, Patreon polls, which are available to Patreon supporters at the $3 tier or higher, have been updated. Supporters can now suggest films or shows to be reviewed at the end of each month. The two most liked submissions will become the options for the Patreon poll, so if you want to hear us talk about your favorite movie or show, join our Patreon and start campaigning. And lastly, whether you're a new or longtime listener, please consider writing a review or rating the Cinematic Doctrine podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Apart from financially supporting on Patreon, these are the two most helpful ways to support the show. And that's it. Enjoy the episode. You're listening to Cinematic Doctrine. Hey listeners, so if you just press play, you're missing out on 38 whopping minutes of us talking about me and Melanie. We talked about anime. Whoa, what a surprise in the Belle episode where we're talking about anime. Yeah, we kind of got into like, what's our history with anime? Are we even familiar with the genre or style or whatever you want to particularly call it? What are things we like about anime? What are things we don't like about anime? What are some particular shows we really love? What are some shows we do not love? And just sort of like the experience of growing up, I guess you could say, with anime. Because at this point, I think everyone in our generation has really grown up with anime, whether it was starting with Toonami or starting with pirating on YouTube or something. Right. Just being bad. It's just... to me, really an interesting thing to explore because everyone's got such a different relationship to anime at this point. And so, yeah, you miss out on that if you don't support on Patreon. If you are supporting on Patreon, you're probably listening to this episode on Patreon right now. But supporting for Patreon is pretty cool. You just pay $3 a month and you get access to bonus content on episodes just like this one. Sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 40 minutes. So it can be a pretty good deal. It's basically a year's worth of extra content and a bunch of episodes since we've recorded since then. There's a lot of benefits to supporting on Patreon. You'll hear about those as you listen to the episode. And but you press play to listen to us talk about Belle. This is Mamoru Hosoda's, hopefully I got that name right, Hosoda. This is one of his projects. He's got a lot of projects under his belt. Let's take a look. I had a list. Belle, Mirai, The Boy and the Beast, Wolf Children, Summer Worlds, Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
One of my favorites.
Other credits, some TV credits. So this guy has been busy.
You know what I found out?
Yeah, what's that?
When I was looking at his filmography. Is that what you call it? The filmography?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was looking at all the films he did, he actually was one of the directors on one of my favorite anime movies. It was Digimon, the movie. It came out in 2000.
Oh, dope. That's so cool.
Yes. He was like, and I was like, wait, really? Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Cannot tell you how much I love this movie, but I'm also really sad. So if you can help me out or anybody can help me out, I can't find it anywhere. Like to stream, to buy, I will buy it, but I don't want to spend like $50 on a DVD. But it was literally one of my favorites growing up. I just thought it was so cute. And I loved the TV show because that was another one of the TV shows I used to watch growing up, Digimon. I just thought it was so cute.
Wow, I'm not even finding it on justwatch.com. I just searched Digimon.
Yeah, it's like it's gone. And it just makes me really sad. So I didn't know if I'm hoping one day it'll come back to me. It'll have like its second life, third life, whatever.
Got to keep watching thrift stores. I'm sure somebody owned a DVD copy or VHS even.
Oh, I'm sure. But yeah, Digimon is really cool. So it made me excited to see his name attached to that because it's one of my favorites.
Well, that's especially interesting just because it seems to be that he has a fascination with like digital worlds and digital spaces.
Yeah. So I was like, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
And he seems to also contrast that alongside his fascination with, like, I would say, like nature or realism. I don't know how to describe it. He all I have to say is he definitely plays with the relationship between the two. And we'll definitely get into that, his sense of duality, which was one of the things I really wanted to get into. But yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and first I'll thank Patreon supporters for picking this one. I forgot about that, but Patreon supporters picked this episode, or picked this movie for us to do on this episode. So again, support on Patreon. You get to pick movies we do each month. We pick a theme, you pick on the poll, we do the episode you picked. The more supporters we get, the more options there will be. Because at one point, I think I put up too many movies and then everybody picked a different one. So it was a tie. And I was like, okay, I got to narrow down the options. So, hey, we got more options if we have more support. So, but again, thank you so much for picking this one. Yeah, let me go ahead and introduce it. So I had been seeing that this was pretty popular for the last 2 years. It was screened at Cannes. Very, very, very popular amongst a lot of people I follow on Letterboxd. From my experience, I thought it was really just a digital retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And that is somewhat true. But that really doesn't start until I would say like 40 minutes into the movie. It takes a long time because the movie really begins with an awesome digital concert from the singer. We get the details of what this world is that we're seeing. It's very I would almost say like digitech, very like almost I struggle to describe what the digital world looks like because it doesn't have like a bottom and top. It's people just sort of float around like it's Coruscant, except there's no floors. It's pretty neat. And our titular character Belle is singing on a whale with speakers on it, so it's not just that this digital world is unrealism. It's also just very like whatever you want, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And we learn that it's a digital world you connect to through a phone app that then connects to a peripheral that then makes your body engage into the digital world. Was never entirely quite sure on how those dynamics worked. Not that I'm begging it to tell me through science fiction mumbo jumbo,
right.
But it just works. And so that's all that you need to know.
Yep.
And the way that this happens is you get into the app then gets to know you, and it then builds your avatar from your personality. That avatar can only change as your personality changes. There's no way to change it otherwise. And then you go off into this world. Our lead character, Suzu, is the titular Belle. Nobody knows who Belle is, but they're desperate to know because she is basically the pop sensation of, what's it called? You. That's what the world's called, You. And the real, like, I would say, because we're not doing a play-by-play episode here, we're gonna share our thoughts and go forward. But the events of the movie really begin when she's singing at a concert, and out of nowhere, this beast shows up and starts fighting essentially what are the digital police in You. And she is, while everybody is interested in who's Belle, she is extremely interested in who the beast is and what is this beast like play, what's up with him. And so she begins adventuring to find out who they are. Meanwhile, in the real world, Suzu does not like to sing at all. In fact, if she sings, she throws up. She's sick. It's traumatic because her mother taught her how to sing growing up, and then her mother ended up dying. And so she has sadness there. So the movie has a real sense of I said it earlier, but a duality between what's in the real world and what's in the digital world, the differences between the two, positives and negatives, and even animation styles, which I thought was really neat. Although technically it's all digital, I wish they went the extra mile to make it hand-drawn for the real world, but the real world is 2D animation, and then the digital world is 3D CG. And we're at a point now where 3D CG is not shocking to watch like it used to be, where it was really bad. And this is some really good stuff. At times almost looks better, the character models in particular. You may not know this, but the easiest way you can show your support for Cinematic Doctrine is to rate and review the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. So press pause and share your thoughts. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And then press play again so you can hear the rest of the show. But yeah, before I get into my thoughts, Melanie, what did you think of Belle?
I thought it was really cute. I mean, there's definitely some plot holes in the story. But I just really connected with Suzu and her journey, especially What captivated me even more the second time was just how she was really just trying to work through her grief of losing her mother in such a tragic and sad way. And how even people were commenting on her mother's heroic act. So her mother, of course, dies saving another child from a, what was it, a river?
It was like a rising river during a storm.
Yeah, basically. During a storm. It was really, and the child was stranded, and her mother felt like she was the only one who could save that child. And so it was very, very tragic. And Suzu really hasn't been the same since then. But yet, going through this experience through you, being able to put on this other personality and be able to like express herself vocally, I just thought was really, really powerful. So I felt very connected to Suzu. And that's usually something that I'm looking for when I'm looking at an anime. Can I sympathize and connect with the characters that I'm watching for whatever reason? And she definitely was that for me, especially as a teacher, just seeing a lot of young teenage girls, whether through grief or their own emotional anxiety, just kind of trying to find ways to break out of their shell, whether in many different creative forms. I saw a lot of that in this film as well. I thought it was depicted very realistically, just in the sense of not this futuristic digital world, but just in how she's trying to find her voice.
Yeah.
And I thought that aspect of the film is done really, really well. And I just really I enjoyed it for that reason. And there's definitely a couple of things that happen in the film where you're kind of like, it's like, I don't really know why this works or why this is happening.
Get into
that, but like you said, I'm kind of glad I didn't get like a super detailed explanation as to why this makes sense. So it was a weird place to be. It's like, I don't know, but I don't think I want you to try either. Let's just keep the movie going. But
yeah, I feel like well first off, I feel like one of the big things is what'd you think of the music?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved the music. I had such a great time. Yes, I remember watching it the first time and I was like, I love this song so much.
What the heck? This is dope.
And it was just, it's such you want it to be strong. It's like, what a great way to show like, this is Suzu. This is who she's become. This is her being confident. This is her being strong in this other world. I think it's just a great way to get it started. And what I actually did was I looked up the Japanese version of the song and the singer who sang for the Japanese version.
Oh, we're about to out you. What was it, sub or dub? What'd you watch it in?
Oh, like how did I watch this film?
Yeah.
I have no shame. I know people will hate me, but I watched it dubbed.
I watched it subbed, so I guess I'm better than you.
I guess so.
It's not just the patriarchy. It's my decision making.
And listen, just a quick comment about
I hear the dub's good.
Dub. Like I think it's pretty good. I mean, is it better?
I don't know.
No.
Maybe.
No, I won't say that, the dubbing is better. But what I will say, because I'm just being honest, is like sometimes I don't want to read. Sometimes I do just want to.
It's totally fair.
Right. And I think that that's fair. But then I've had one or two people specifically tell me, then you don't really love anime, or that's just not how you watch real anime. And I'm like, you're hype and you need to relax. It's not that big of a deal. And again, I'm not saying that the dub version is always better.
It's when you pull out your American flag and you're like, of course I don't love anime. I'm American. I love America.
But anyways.
By the way, I'm not vaccinated. You guys ever use Telegram? That's where I get all my news.
It just keeps escalating, right? But yeah, so I watched the dubbed version and then I listened to the Japanese version of each of the songs, and I loved that version, those versions better, just a little bit more, but I just still enjoyed all the music. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was beautiful. I love the way that she sings. And I sometimes, like when I watch an anime or when I watch anything with like music in it or musicals, like I always worry, it's like, is there going to be too much music? Is there going to be too little music? And I felt like for the context of the film, it had just the right amount. And so I really enjoyed the music. yeah, I thought it was great.
Your comment was interesting though about like the music and like, would it be more musical and overbearing, or would it just be, and yeah, I almost feel like I probably would have liked the movie more if it was a musical. But because it's more of a, like, I just like musicals.
Yeah,
and
me too.
So just having like, different styles of music, which was one thing I really liked, was that each song sounded different from the rest, as opposed to just all being K-pop style, like whatever. Like I mean, obviously it would be J-pop because it's, you know, Japanese, but yeah, not, instead of it just being a consistent style, it was different musics, which I really, really enjoyed. So you could have like one that's more preferred or whatever, and that was good. But yeah, I almost like was thinking to myself how much more like I could still separate that Suzu is a particular singer from other people who would just be singing their songs, just as you would if it was a musical anyway. And so, but yeah, I feel like I almost would have drawn out a lot more, or I'm sure like maybe if the game was more musical, then that would have been the case. Like other people coming in and other characters, and we'd have a singing frog creature or something, like whatever. That'd be kind of fun. And the Beast could sing, but I suppose I could just watch Beauty and the Beast then if I want a musical.
There you go.
But I didn't even realize, but that's like a clever way in which Belle incorporates music, is because it's still a bit like Beauty and the Beast in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the movie was, let me start with this. I have watched another Mamoru Hosoda project, Joint. I saw Wolf Children years ago. I'm pretty sure that for many years, I don't know if it's still the case, I forgot to check before this recording, but for many years, I had one of the top 3 reviews on my enemy list for this movie, and it was negative. And every couple months, I would get an email telling me that I got a new message on my anime list profile telling me I was stupid and that nobody loves me and that I don't love anybody because I don't like this movie that's so great. And it would literally keep happening. So I would screenshot it and just send it to my friends. And I wouldn't reply. I'd just be like, yo, it happened again. Like, it was
that's
just like,
so funny.
It kept happening. People love Wolf Children. And I get it. There's a lot of stuff that you could love about that movie. I don't. And my criticisms of it at the time were just that I thought that the pacing was off kilter. Every time there was a problem, it was immediately solved within like 10 to 15 minutes. So why would I be worried when a problem shows up? And I get that some of the film's themes in that are community and people coming together and helping each other. And there is a sense in which the film is about, I would almost say like, social minimalism, like coming out of the city and like settling into a house and in the fields or whatever, and people, you know, small town living. And so in that way, like every problem that shows up, it gets solved because a neighborhood person helps them out. So cool, whatever. But like it just, yeah, I didn't like it. So just to keep that in short, like pacing problem. And then I actually criticized the fact that everything was so beautiful. I really didn't like that all of the art was so good, because at some point it stopped being impressive to me, like because it was just like that was what it looked like, and so there was no style at that point to me anymore. And so these are really weird criticisms for this movie, but they were just things that I did not like. On top of the fact that
for
I didn't
Wolf
like the
Children or
for
Belle?
Wolf Children, and
okay,
so for Wolf Children, but I'm finding that this is the second project from Hosoda that I've watched, and I saw some similar things that I did not like either. Like I didn't really connect with the visual profile of the movie. The in real life stuff was kind of that same beautiful overabundance, and so I just wasn't super into that. The digital world in terms of visuals, there was like a specific note I wrote, and I'm gonna just try and find it and see if I can read it, because sometimes I can't read my handwriting when I'm watching a movie, because I like am watching the movie with my eyes wide open, and then I'm like trying to scribble stuff down. Okay, what'd I say? I usually can buy into artistic symbols, but in fiction with a digital world, I often have difficulty understanding how certain things happen. So like one guy has like an arm cannon or whatever, and I'm like, how does that apply to the currency of this world? Did he just buy that? Did he get that from his personality? Is the implication that like the police people, that's what they are like in real life? So not that they're policemen, but that they fancy themselves policemen, or their personalities like policemen, so then they become policemen in the world. Like there was just like stuff that I know I started by making a joke, like I don't need it to explain itself.
Right.
But I needed to explain itself just a little bit.
Just a little.
so there was just so much disorientation that the digital world became difficult for me. But it's okay, because then at some point the digital world just became a place where they fly around. So I guess it doesn't really matter. Like I guess you could just move on. So the craziness of the digital world is actually just like an open Gmod level where you fly around and there's actually nothing to do. Like, is there prop hunt? Like, it's not like Roblox. Like, is there stuff you can do? Like, what is, all people seem to be doing is just like flying in lines. And if you want to do that, just go to Disney World, get in line. And then right when you're about to get on the ride, get out of line. Like, you can just do that. Like, it's fine. I don't want to do that, but
yeah, there were definitely, right. I think there were definitely aspects of this film, the digital world aspects, that were done better in Summer Wars.
Okay, yeah. So I remember when that came out, and I had friends who liked it. I never saw it. What is that like? Is that more digital than this?
Yes, I feel like the storyline is a lot, or like when it comes to, because it definitely centers. I had a lot of thoughts at once, so give me a second.
I was like, "Dude, all attack you." I was like, "Oh my gosh, you okay?"
I couldn't talk anymore. Okay, so with this film, it's clearly less about the digital world itself and more about the people in it.
I accept this.
So Summer Wars was, yes, it was about the characters, but the interaction with the digital world was like the main piece. Because there's like a virus that pops up. So in the digital world. So I feel like a lot of the questions that you're asking were things that were fleshed out a lot better, but still simple, like not too complicated in this other film, Summer Wars. So I would imagine at the very least,
maybe just go watch Summer Wars.
You might like Summer Wars a smidge. I don't, you're a wild card sometimes, Melvin. So I don't even know. But so I'm going to keep it simple. Well, not simple, but like slightly hopeful that you might like it a smidge more than Belle.
Enjoying this episode? Grab that share link and tell your friends. Word of mouth is the most effective way for a podcast to reach new listeners, so don't be shy. Share the episode wherever you can. It's simultaneously built up as like this world you want to be in, and then also I'm going, I don't understand. Like, and maybe I'm just a boomer, right? I'm a 27-year-old boomer. I don't understand the things the kids are into. I don't do TikTok dances.
You kids so, like, and your technology. You're not even doing anything.
Even one of my notes later in the movie, one of my notes is literally just like, I am more and more happy that I am less offline, or becoming more and more. I'm like finding more joy that I'm less off, or I'm more offline. I can't even talk. I'm just like, that's how
I know what
old
you mean
I am. I'm just like becoming old in this very minute. I'm becoming old. But that was because so much of the world is set there, and it's just setting. I get it, but like because it's setting and set there, like that was like I didn't connect with that, and I know one of the reasons SAO took off, Sword Art Online took off, is because of the world. Is because of the fantasy of, it's not just you're in a different world, it's a video game. And guess what? Little Timmy's really good at video games, and he's not good at anything else, but he's good at video games. So if he can beat you in a video game, he's cooler than you. I hate you, Dad. I'm good at video games. Like that. Okay, that's the fantasy, right? So like this is playing up on that. And I was just like, I don't want to play this game. Like, I just don't get it. And so, but I get it. It's like very metaversey. If people like Fortnite, going to concerts, seeing like Triple X, or so, I guess not him. Who was it? The Marshmallow guy. I don't know. I'm such a boomer. I don't know anything that people like either. Anymore.
That's all right.
This is a boomer podcast, Sindoc Boomer episode, but it's just like I couldn't connect with that. But I gotta move on because I want to actually talk about things I did like. I appreciated that there was like motifs going on. There's a consistent theme of duality going on, and so like throughout the movie, there's a visual reoccurrence of whales. And similar to whales, like Suzu is a character who is living in one world but feels the need to connect to another to really be realized and grow. Just like a whale lives underwater but continually has to be dependent on going up for oxygen, and that it nourishes them and helps them live. And so in this way, like Belle is being realized through their ability to at least use this tool of you to express themselves anonymously, ultimately, until it's beneficial to not be anonymous anymore. The film pretty consistently has this duality going on. It's not just about like online personality and offline personality, but it's also like, do you do things for recognition, or do you do things for your own individual purpose? So there's the beginning of the film starts with them trying to figure out what club they're going to be a part of. And one guy just has a canoe club and no one's joining it.
I love him.
Yeah, it's my favorite. It was my favorite part. Like the canoe through so line. Much. I mean, it's so funny, but like his thing is that he wants to canoe and he wants to have a team. Nobody does it. Doesn't matter. He's still going to practice. And then it turns out he's really succeeding and doing extremely well.
Yeah.
And like, there's something to the fact that like he's doing it for himself. And and not just that, but it's also something that brings him joy in itself. That like, it's to me, I found really heartwarming. That's kind of why I do this podcast. It's kind of why I do a lot of things, is because it brings myself joy. And being dependent on people to engage you, it means that those people have the power to disappoint you. And it's already hard enough when you disappoint yourself. I don't want to include other people in that either. Right. So it's a complicated thing, but it's a duality that I quite enjoyed seeing throughout the movie. And on the topic of the canoeing, everything that was slice of life I liked in this movie. I like the scene where Suzu's walking down the wharf and she's practicing a song and she realizes she likes it. She's going to record it.
Yeah, that was really sweet.
I liked when the canoe guy was interested in Ruka, and Ruka, it turns out, was interested in the canoe guy. And I love that scene.
Yes. Oh, that was so sweet. Oh, it was adorable. Yes.
Very good stuff. I was like, I want more of this. I want this movie to just be like day life stuff and maybe just the whole digital stuff we don't see. Like it would have been actually kind of, I know that like the movie is the Beauty and the Beast stuff, but it would have been kind of interesting if it went all 8th grade on us. And like, we mostly just watched the perspective of Suzu in the digital world recording. And like, I don't know, like the second she's Belle and makes music, her friends already made tracks. She's popular, which I guess is possible. But like, there's just, again, I talk about wolf children having pacing issues. Belle, I think, has pacing issues. It's just, it's quick, it's snappy.
Yeah.
And so it's a movie that I think like, and I understand this because Skinamarink is one of my favorite movies of last year. You gotta buy into Belle and then you'll enjoy it. Just like if you didn't buy into Skinamarink, it's the worst movie you've ever seen. And and like in this case, it's not the worst movie if you didn't buy into it, but I just found that difficult to connect to. And that's without getting into the most difficult thing in the movie, which we'll probably talk about. I'm finding that it ends up being one thing that other people also find like surprising and disruptive to the plot line. But
I definitely agree with you. And that's what I said in the beginning. Like because I instantly connected with Suzu, I was able to just go along with the ride with everything else, even with all the holes and things that didn't quite make a lot of sense. And what's interesting is that all my favorite parts of the film, and I agree with you, were the parts that really didn't have anything to do with the Beauty and the Beast, like aspect.
Yeah, it almost kind of gets in the way of the best stuff. Like I like the stuff with the dad, like the scene there's a scene in the end of the movie on a train during text messages that I thought was great, and it was animated so well. It was like subtle. I'm like, where's this stuff? Put this stuff in the movie.
I think they could have used more of that, and it's not that it's a bad idea. It just seemed like there were. Because again, watching it again, I noticed more of these things. It seemed like there were two stories they were trying to tell, and they didn't really come together. They feel very separate.
Yes. There, as we're talking about it, I'm almost picturing two stories, right? Like the Beauty and the Beast thing, and then the musical Suzu stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like told in 3 parts, right? Like there's the beginning with the music, there's the slice of life function, where it's quieter, and then the Beauty and the Beast stuff. And if you I'm sorry, digital world music, Suzu, real life, slice of life, and then Beauty and the Beast thing. And like, if you don't buy into one of these things, the movie's still pretty good. That's 2/3 of a movie you're going to like. But if you don't buy into 2 of them, that is 1/3 of a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, you're not going to have a good time.
I like the slice of life stuff. I like pretty much all of it. There's conversations they have in school. I even like that when she's signing up for you, like she puts in the school photo that she took with all the friends, and it scans all the, essentially who she considers all the pretty girls' faces, and then just her freckles. And so like, and specifically Ryuka, who is built up as like, she's the beautiful girl in the school. And I appreciate that later. It's just like for her, she's like, she doesn't know what people say about her at all.
Yeah.
Maybe she does, but for her, she doesn't see it that way. But I even like that. So like there's still like a connective tissue between the digital world and the real world. But yeah, I didn't really, we'll get into the Beauty and the Beast stuff, but I didn't get into that. And then I did not get into the digital stuff. So I was really just left with like kind of gas, like a whale. I was left underwater, coming up to breathe at the slice of life stuff and enjoying that. So, and then it all comes together at the end, and boy, it's really strange.
Yeah.
Hey. We have some Patreon goals we're trying to reach. If we get enough support, we'll review each God's Not Dead movie, as well as The Inhumans, that really bad Marvel show from a couple years ago. Head over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and share your support. Yeah, so the movie culminates with explaining like who Belle, of course, is gonna, like, is Belle gonna reveal, is Suzu gonna reveal that they're Belle? Who's the Beast? What is going on? How is this duality of internet and real world gonna connect?
Yeah.
And it connects in a very weird way in that the Beast is not a beast at all. It is in the real world, it is a child who is using you to fighting in the dojo, getting stronger. It has bruises on their back because it is a child who is being abused by their dad, protecting their other child, their younger brother, who is being abused by a dad. And you don't see the physical abuse take place. You just see them getting verbally abused with implication. Yeah. But it is weird. I wouldn't even say necessarily it's like shocking or inappropriate or offensive. I would just say it's weird. I don't know if you felt the same before we get into it, but it was just weird.
Yeah, I wondered if we would get to that just because of the whole bruises thing. It's
not subtle. The clues are not subtle. Like, you see it a mile away.
Somebody's being abused in some way. But I did, when I watched it the first time, I remembered him being physically abused. But then when I watched it again, at least in the first instance you see it, it is verbal abuse, but it's like manifesting in his virtual character as like physical bruising, which I thought was actually kind of interesting. If it was a movie just about that, I would find that very interesting. But because, like, if
characters had scars appear on their bodies as well, and it's like the program is connecting with their spiritual scars or trauma scars, and they manifest somehow, like,
there's just some kind of connection where this didn't just come out of nowhere. But I mean, they do mention how this virtual world does sync up with like who you are as a person in reality. I think you mentioned that in the beginning. So like you can connect the dots and it's fine. But it's the stuff that you're going to talk about later that I think adds to the weird, because first of all, it's like they're in this
yes, it gets weird,
pretty much empty room. And this little boy is singing to himself, but he's recording himself live.
What's he doing? Is he just live streaming himself? Yeah,
exactly. So that was kind of strange. And then, I would just say keep going, because I feel like it's just, I'm going to start talking about stuff that happens later.
Through a complicated series of events, Suzu is trying to communicate with this. She's just watched for some. I can't really explain the things I don't understand, so I'll just explain the things I do. The kids are live streaming. The dad comes in to verbally abuse them, and he doesn't know it. Then he leaves, and then Suzu realizes, like, I'm going to talk to them because I've now figured out that the older brother is the Beast. I'm going to say, I know who you are. Where do you live? So I can call the police. The kid does not believe him. And so the climax of the movie is that she is going to go on and sing the song that the young brother was singing, so that it can signal, like, I, Belle, like, and Belle would only know this because Suzu, saw this happen. And so through that series of events, it's going to do that. They sing the song, and then the kids believe them. They're going to explain where they live. The dad comes in before it's too late, goes, "What are you doing? You're streaming," turns off the stream. And then they use their hacker abilities to figure out where they live, which I thought, like, I've just seen enough movies where that's kind of a joke. And so I just wasn't connecting with. And so they use their Hacker Man skills to do this, Hacker Man, and they end up finding where they live. Suzu ends up running to their house. The younger brother finds them. The dad comes out to try to confront her, threatens to hit her. She stares him down. And then he falls over, starts crying, and then runs away. The dad does. And so the implication is that, and then the brother says, the older brother says, I'm going to get stronger and I'll be able to stand up for my brother. The excuse for the reason the police can't get involved is because in the movie, I don't know if this is true in Japan, but basically they said something about like 2 days, and then they don't explain what that means. They just say basically the police can't get involved. I don't know. And then the movie basically ends with Suzu is outed as Belle. That's okay. Suzu is singing now in public, and the movie kind of ends with a triumphantness of like they're all going to sing together. And but the movie is essentially set up that these two kids are being physically abused, is the implication. That they live miles away. Pardon me, kilometers away. And it kind of just doesn't wrap that part up. And these kids are young. They're not teens. The one is definitely like 12.
One is 14.
The older brother, I guess, is the 14-year-old. And then the younger 14. One is like 12 or 11 or just young enough to have no personality. Enough to is performing in a way, at least in the sub, is performing in a way that is very Arrested Development and not in the good show way, more in that they are going to have problems. And so like it just doesn't feel right. And as the movie like alludes to the fact that it's abuse, I mean, like I said, the clues are there right away, so you're going, please don't do that. And then it does it, and then it continues it in a way that just doesn't feel right. It kind of makes me go, there's a more tragic story being told than Suzu's like secure, safe life with her dad. And I just like, I really felt almost like cheated by the ending being this awesome song where she's singing, awesome for the film. I didn't actually, I thought the first song was the best song, and then the songs were kind of okay, and then the last song was just,
I was
just so distracted by the plot. Okay. I was just so distracted. Like I couldn't connect with the song because I'm like, but what? This isn't like, it's not about her anymore. Like there's something more important going on. And I couldn't get through it. So like I said, there's 2 parts, 2 out of 3, like didn't work with me. And this did not sit right with me. And so I felt like this movie started to bite off more than it could chew. Like the extreme nature of the fact that the children are being abused, even physically, it just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, no, I think that was an issue, and I wonder if they could have just taken a few extra minutes to like actually resolve the situation somehow. I think that would have been at least a little bit better. But I wondered, watching it again, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, if her doing this was kind of like her trying to be like her mother and save people.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. Like that's definitely there.
Because I didn't notice that the very first time I watched it, but when I watched it again, it's like, and just the fact that she's not afraid anymore. But the problem with that is that it seems slightly like veering in a different direction from how we first see Suzu. So that I feel like when you keep things simple, they turn out a lot better. So I feel like they should have just stuck to one story and just really fleshed that out rather than trying to combine these 2 to 3 different stories that really just didn't come together in a way that made sense. Because I think what they wanted to do was to create a scenario in which Suzu had to save them. Suzu had to go over there. It could only be her that could do it. When in reality, I mean, I would, again, assuming that, I don't know how things are done in Japan. And someone else could speak to that, but
like social responsibilities, you mean?
Exactly. But I wonder if really did it really have to be her? And I know they were trying to just create that scenario. So I get what they were trying to do. I agree with you that they kind of
it just doesn't feel good.
Like I don't want to say they made light of it because I do think they tried to show like how horrific it was like in the beginning, but the fact that they didn't take the time to resolve it. And for her to see like there are bigger problems out here in the world. Other than that, I'm I'm anxious about my singing ability, which when you're young feels like your entire world. Just not like that was again something I still connected with. When you're a young teenager, it can feel so overwhelming because you care about what people think about you. You don't want to be embarrassed. You can't control what's going to happen once that happens. So I can understand how that's like a very overwhelming feeling. But for her to be able to see outside of herself, maybe do some good, but then they kind of don't take care of that. Yeah, I can see why that's a huge problem and doesn't work out very well.
Hey there, listener. Want to influence the podcast? Head on over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and support the show for $3 a month. In doing so, you'll be able to vote on a movie poll that picks a film we discuss each month. So jump on over there and have your voice heard. I see what the movie's doing, right? Like there's this sense of coming of age where like you go from being a child who has no agency, parents are raising you and everything, and parents do things that parents have agency. The mom can choose to save another child knowing that they might die. Whereas the child has no agency. You can't save the other child. You couldn't die in their place or something like that. That's there. And like in terms of comparisons to the digital world and the real world, right? Like the real world, you perceive oftentimes, we constantly delude ourselves and lie to ourselves and believe the lie that we have no agency. It's just not true. Yeah, this idea that like we delude ourselves into thinking in real life we have very little agency. I don't get to choose what I look like. I don't get to choose my hair color. I don't get to choose my eye color. I don't get to choose where the fat displaces in my body. I don't get to choose particular parts of my body that might be more pleasing for other people. I don't get to choose what they look like. I don't get to choose what's socially acceptable. Sometimes I don't get to choose my clothing because of particular sizes. I don't get to choose if I perspire more than other people. Maybe I smell bad. I don't get to choose how my teeth decide. Maybe I don't get to choose the food I like. I don't get to choose the interests I have. You find those out as you explore the world. Like, you don't know what food you like until you eat that. That's weird. like, I don't get it. But then you go on a video game and you get to choose what your character looks like. You get to choose your hair. You get to choose your interests. But also, ironically, you didn't get to choose what video games you like because you just started playing it and went, I like it. And you don't get to choose. Like, it's there's a sense in which like it feels like by being online, you have more agency. And the movie kind of plays with this sense where like, I don't get to choose the fact that in the real world, when I sing, I throw up or I get sick. But in the digital world, nobody knows who I am. I get to recreate myself. There's a sense in which the movie really connects the fact that that's not true because the digital world bases itself on you. And so like he's playing with these ideas, but I just don't think he does them in a way that makes sense because then like when they're in the digital world, all they do is fly around and I guess watch concerts. Okay, that sounds really exciting. Like points for SAO for the fact that you could literally be a blacksmith. Episodes that are kind of boring, but they become a married couple and they adopt a glitch. That show's ridiculous. But there's more happening in Aincrad, and it makes more sense. Like, so what it's trying to say though about like your involvement in creativity makes more sense in that than it does here. The problem then becomes though when like your decisions, I don't know, like have to do with people's ability to like be abused by their parents, which is just totally different. And now when we come to like, we were talking about like, maybe it's because they're making a parallel between Suzu's saving this family, these children, similar to how her mom does. And the movie definitely, I think, makes that clear, right? Like she's on her way to do it. And then the dad is texting her saying like, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm sure you're doing what's good. You're still being raised by your mom, right? Like, so it's making this parallel of like,
oh, I missed that text. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what the translation is in the dub, but in the sub, like he's saying like, you know, your mom's still present. And it's like a really great scene because like, that's kind of true. Like just because they're gone and like, I'm not going to infantilize, I'm not going to deconstruct the concept of death. Death is final, but like there is a sense in which like there's ripple effects, and like those things still affect you. But she's doing this. But I would say that this is a fundamentally different situation than a child stuck on a rock that is being affected by the rain. Rain is not malicious. Water can't continue to hurt you. The weather will get better. There is no confirmation that the dad is repentant and will stop abusing the children. There is, if you were to save the person from like dying, there is the chance that you'll still survive when you do that. In the scenario where the mother dies, there is an opportunity to. There's no lingering effects. Yes, there's the lingering effect of the mom dies, but let's imagine it's the exact same situation in terms of results. Like, the mom survives. She's not going to continue to have like the trauma, or this child won't continue to have the trauma of like, oh no, the rain tried to kill me. Like, that's different from, oh no, my dad punches me. Like, that's just like,
right.
These are just,
it is different.
They're categorically different. And so I see what Hosoda's doing. I see what he's like playing with. I just think I think he's trying to put the square peg in the circle peg, like into the circle hole. Like, it doesn't, like, they're both shapes. And I understand that they're like, right. They're supposed to go here.
Yeah.
It's just not working. And you can push harder, but then you're creating tension, and that tension is put on me, and I'm going, this doesn't work. And this doesn't feel right. Like, I know that the movie's rated PG, and I'm not criticizing the fact that it has child abuse in a PG movie. That's fine. I just don't think it makes sense in this narrative. And yeah, I don't know, when your climax is trying to combine all these things that I don't think go together, I don't know. It's the square peg in the circle hole. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I feel you. And I think that it's definitely a valid point. And I did get that sense. I think I was just able to, for myself, enjoy the other aspects of the film where it didn't like, it's a problem with the film. And I don't think it quite, as you very elaborately explained, it doesn't fit. But I do think that the other qualities of the film still helped me to enjoy the experience as a whole. And I definitely think that Summer Wars is a film that has one clear story, one clear point, and it kind of sticks in that like vein. Like, you don't there are like other
focused
aspects.
It's more focused.
It's more focused. I feel like there are like other familial aspects. So I think he's really good at drawing out those like real moments and experiences and kind of bringing you into that. But again, it had one focus, and I think that that's kind of what elevates it. So I did enjoy the film. It's not I don't think it's his best film, but I did just find a lot of just admirable qualities about it. But yeah, what you're explaining here at the end, that was the biggest thing that I didn't like as well. Like, I had issues with this unresolved ending.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, I feel like, yeah, it's something where like, if you're like involved, like, as an audience member, we involve ourselves in the lives of people. We're being voyeuristic, so in a way we have no right to be involved in their lives. But like, when you see something, when you hear of even abuse in anything, like, I would hope that someone is encouraged to try and help, or recognize they're out of their league and try and help point somebody to where to go, because that's really important. And it just sort of like seemed like just so it was shocking. This was shocking to me. One of my notes had to do with like, because of everything being digital and online, one of my duality things was like, in real life is really private, but online is completely not private. It's just not, especially nowadays. Everything's being tracked, everything's data. If somebody wants to find your old tweets where you were a monster, they can find those. If you have the unfortunate reality of having nudes online, they're there forever. I'm sorry. And so like, there's just this like really horrible thing about the lack of privacy on the internet. And so I like that there was some consistent things about that. Like, when the mom ends up dying, the film cuts to like comments that are on news articles about this mom saving this child, but the comments are saying, I guess she didn't care about her child. You're like, what the heck? Like, and then you're like, oh right, that is comment sections. It's the worst. And like, it's just terrible. And then there's
I hate
it's just crazy. And then there's like other scenes where like, who is not Belle, but who is the beast? And I like these through lines of scenes, and I would consider these parts the slice of life part, because it's in real world. How is the internet affecting your life? and they're trying to find who the beast is. And so there's an artist that's like got a cape that is similarly, or he's got tattoos that are similar to the bruises. So people are thinking,
right,
is that what that is? There's a baseball player who never shows his he never takes his jacket off when he's practicing. We see his life is then exposed because through the internet, because of people's engagement and involvement in his life, which in a way they have no obligation and or right to that. I liked that the film, I would say, has a narrative critique of this contrast of like, people should, who cares who Belle is? Suzu should just be allowed to sing, and that's okay. Like, that's totally fine. I like that. I know, I realize I've just been criticizing this movie for an hour, but like, I thought that was good. I think that's mature and healthy. I wouldn't mind more of that, because I'm a boomer, I guess, now, and I like being offline. And the most online I am is this podcast, I think. I don't think I do much, and Letterboxd, but I like that. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
No,
I think that's a good thing.
Like, you didn't hate everything. That's good to know. I do think the commentary, or like the pros and cons of the internet, especially in the comment section, was done very, very well. Because you're always going to have people who are really encouraging and kind, and then you're always just going to have people who just hate things because they want to. Or are going to question people's intentions. And I thought it also really highlighted how people can present themselves a certain way on social media, and it's not true.
100%.
And how there needs to be like a lot of discernment when it comes to that. I think even just in the aspect of what seems like a happy family is not a happy family all the time. Even just something as simple as that. They're not completely dysfunctional. Everything's not always falling apart, but people can become jealous of others on social media because they feel like their bodies look a certain way, their lives look a certain way. Oh, they just have children and they've got this and that. Everything is so perfect for them. When actually it's not. It's like a lot, like everyone's life, it has its ups and downs, its struggles, and yes, some people even lie. So like when I have people that friend request me, if there's things that are like red flags or just questionable, I'll just say no. I'm like, I have no idea who you are. I don't know why you want to be friends with me. I'm not interested. And so I think that it portrays that aspect of being online. I think it does that really well too. So
I just wish it was more of that. Hey, don't forget, there's a lot of fun content missing from this episode because you're not listening on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine and support for $3 a month to gain access to uncut episodes with upwards of 40 minutes of bonus content each. You'll thank me later. Which, because obviously I'm a successful script screenwriter and I've written many movies, I obviously have the credentials to critique this narrative and say that I think it would have been maybe a bit more like the subtlety of the fact that things can hurt you and hurt you deeply without being physical would have been quite interesting. The fact that these bruises that are essentially manifesting internally and then expressed outside in your avatar could have been interesting if it was like softer things.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe something like online bullying could have been like an alternative.
Yeah, that could have been really fascinating.
Not perfect, because I do think that can get complicated as well, and maybe not instant solutions aren't always going to be there for that either. But maybe just something that was that could have triggered him and that emotional bruising in some way that didn't necessarily, like you said, manifest itself in that particular way.
Yeah, like think of it. He's fighting in the dojos and he's trying to fight better and better, more crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like the rest of the internet's gone, right? So like, why not, like they got other apps on his phone and like other people are being mean. They're posting stuff about him, and maybe like because people do this, they use chat groups to plan to jump people, and like somehow Belle finds out about stuff like this because Belle's popular and this and that, and like I don't know, there could be like, that would be a much stronger.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe she could even use her platform to encourage or to discourage people from bullying him. or to make an awareness of that. And that could be like a step in the right direction, not like a full complete solution, but I don't know. That's her way of enacting change in a way that's positive, in a way that's encouraging. And that makes sense, like being an influencer of some kind online.
Yeah.
Rather than literally like tracking people going to their house and stopping their abusive dad. Like it just, I think that would have made a little bit more sense. Like maybe play around with that idea for sure.
Yeah. And it would have gone also along the lines of like, in comparison to the Beauty and the Beast, right? You have the Beast is being a monster and they're trying to become more powerful so they can fight back. But then in this solution coming from the outside, it can calm him down to not be this, to not realize that fighting violence with violence in this situation would not be useful. And that would be the calming down of the beast, the finding true love. In this case, it'd be like finding true sensibilities or something. And like that would help diminish. That would be another parallel to Beauty and the Beast. But also I think like there's not much connection, I would say, between the internet stuff and the real world stuff. And maybe having that like in the side stuff, there is almost as if it's begging for you to then see that in this like abuse case and stuff that it's going on. But the dad's not abusing him with the internet. The dad's just abusing him. So it's like, it's just very, So I don't know. People like the movie. It's a very, very, very popular
These young
movie.
people, they like these movies with the internet.
I have people on Letterboxd who have rewatched it. They love it. I like reading their thoughts. I think they have good thoughts. I recognize that this is a very beloved movie for people, so I don't begrudge anyone who does. Right. Movies are weird. Sometimes you connect with them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you change your mind, as I've said many times on this podcast. So
no, absolutely. There have been, and I won't name them because I don't want to make enemies for myself, but there have been popular kids films, Disney films that people have adored that I just didn't connect with it. I don't think.
If you don't like WALL-E, you're about to really
No.
Okay.
I will say WALL-E is actually one of my favorites.
It changed my life.
I love WALL-E.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's more like the musical stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So because and again, like people have, like you're saying, like explain to me like the emotional connection that they had to these characters, to these songs where they felt seen, they felt heard, they felt themselves reflected. And I'm like, and you know what? That is a beautiful thing. I do not have to be on that same page with you.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. And that's actually, as like a side comment, it's just something I've learned about films as I've gotten older, where it's just like, not everyone's going to agree with you. And oftentimes I'm just like, you know what? That is okay. We do not have to like the same movies. I'm not going to take it personally because it's not about me. They're not commenting on who I am as a person. They're just sharing with me how they either connected or did not connect with what I connected with. And when you have it, it's great. And then when you don't have it, it's all right.
It's almost more interesting sometimes, I think. I
know you like that.
Yeah, like I've actually texted it a couple times to some of you guys. Whenever you come on, I'm like, hey, if you didn't like it, that's fine. We'll get into it. It'll be great. Because I find that almost you draw out more, and I find that it's also just more edifying. And also more interesting. Sometimes just listening to people say this movie is great so many times, at some point I'm like, all right, let's move on. And it just gets a little overbearing. But did you know Cinematic Doctrine has a blog? Visit cinematicdoctrine.com to read extended thoughts on movies or movie industry news from our contributors. Plus, you can find our podcast on there too. What kind of recommendations are we getting into? What kind of hip things are we into these days?
So, I guess since we're in the vein of anime, I will recommend. I'm running the film through my head just to make sure there's nothing that I forget. But I actually really enjoyed this film called Spriggan. It's a movie.
Oh,
there's not a TV show.
The old one, right? The old flick?
I think
or
so.
Are you talking about the Netflix adaptation? There's two.
Really? I definitely think I'm thinking of the older one because I didn't realize
The Netflix adaptation is, I think, a limited series. So if you watch something that's multiple episodes, that's what you're talking about. But if you're talking about the movie...
No, I'm talking about the movie. And it looks like it came out in 98.
Yeah, this movie's fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much fun.
Super good animation.
Again, rolling the tape back to see if there's anything like what we talked about. And I think we're good. I'm pretty sure there's nothing like that. It is a violent film. So if that is something you're sensitive to. But even on like the scale of violence, it's definitely not the most extreme either. I remember it being fairly short, but I guess I can just read a little bit of the
90 minutes. Yeah,
the synopsis from IMDb. It says, at the top of the world, the ancient artifact known as Noah's Ark has been uncovered. Now a desperate battle erupts across the planet as two secret organizations race to recover the lost artifact, one seeking to destroy it, the other to enslave the human race. Monstrous half-human cyborgs face off against Earth's ultimate defenders, the secret organization known as Arkham, or is it Arkham? I think it's Arkham. And their elite agents, the Spriggan, in an epic duel with the future of our species as the prize. And so you have this main character named Omanai Yu, who is a Spriggan. He's a teenager, but he's like special and you find out why. Who is one of those defenders, and he's just trying to make sure that this ancient artifact doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Super fun, not complicated, very focused. And I think, if you love anime, I think you love a good action movie, you'll have a great time with this one.
To keep in theme with, I always have such bizarre recommendations. To keep in theme with the fact that I did not like Wolf Children, and people liked that. I didn't like Belle, and people like that. I'm going to recommend another movie that I don't like, but other people do, which probably means if you watch it, you will like it. So
interesting.
I'm going to recommend Jinro, The Wolf Brigades from 1999. This movie has extremely iconic visuals. I remember just thinking this movie was so boring, so uninteresting, bordering on the pretentious. I think the beginning is great. Basically opens up with this guy who's part of the Wolf Brigade. It's basically like an elite police force. There's a rebellion going on, and he ends up killing some people, but he ends up killing one person who he like looks in the face, and they have eye contact, and then he kills them. And then he's dealing with that. And I got it. I want to make clear, if I don't like a movie, it's not because I don't get it. And I think I've made that clear, not just in this episode, but over the last 3 years of the show. But I got what this movie was doing, and I just did not like it. And I watched it years ago. Maybe if I rewatch it, I'll like it. I don't know. It's been literally probably like since 2017, 2018. I can't seem to pop open my old review. Let's see. I watched this on the 14th of May, 2016. Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's got some really good animation. It looks great. It generally feels pretty great, but I found it to be repetitive. You might not. If you buy into it and the mood, you were gonna have a blast. I remember it being a really cool mood piece, and again, the visuals are cool. But you'll see influence. The second you see it, you'll see the influence it's had. If you've played Killzone, or you've seen visuals from Killzone from the PlayStation game that never seem to really take off. The Wolf Brigade soldiers look exactly like the soldiers from Killzone, or I should say the other way around. Check it out. Jinro, The Wolf Brigade. I could have recommended many other good anime that I've liked, but I, again, would have to probably filter it. I guess I want to recommend one that I love, Textualize. I think it has very, very light animated nudity, or it's conveniently censored nudity, but I think that's great. But I'm going to list Jinro, The Wolf Brigade in the recommendations, so you only know I recommended Textualize if you listen to the episode. Thank you for listening to the episode. So I guess that's it. Melanie, we can go to bed. We don't have to do this anymore.
Cool.
Yay. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Cinematic Doctrine. If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving a review and subscribing to the podcast. And as mentioned before, Cinematic Doctrine has a Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you're opted into a once-a-month movie poll where you decide a movie we discuss on the podcast. There are other unique benefits that come with supporting the podcast, so be sure to check that out at patreon.com/cinematic doctrine. A special shout out to those who support at the Art House Theater tier on Patreon. Thank you so much, Mom, Dad, Melanie, Shirley-Ann, and Thomas. You guys are the best, and your continued monetary support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, stay cool. Want some Cinematic Doctrine swag? You're in luck! We've got 3-inch Cinematic Doctrine logo stickers exclusive for Patreon supporters. Perfect for your travel mug or laptop. Head over to patreon.com/cinematic doctrine, link in the show notes, and choose the Independent Theater tier. Doing so will net you other perks too. But let's be real, the podcast stickers are the coolest perk. So get yourself some podcast stickers by supporting on Patreon.